So I was doing a bunch of research like I always do, and had me thinking, people don't do research, right? I mean, I guess people do research, but so many people don't live like I do, right? I observe it with my friends, I observe it with my family, I observe it with the people around me, I observe it with the people I've worked with in the past, I observe it with everything, and I'm not judging, I just observe, and what I observe around me is that I do different things, right? Most people would probably, if I said this to someone, they'd be like, "Oh, that's fucking crazy." But I tell people, like, I literally just travel dimensions using the psychedelic molecules. I think that molecules are messengers, and they can also make you a passenger to travel somewhere. But that's more the psychedelics, because that's what I got into in the beginning, was just psychedelic molecules. I was diving mainly with DMT, but then I started getting into other plants, and plants like blue lotus, plants like red lotus, white lotus, plants like clipdaga, wild daga, motherwort, um, and not Chinese motherwort. Leonoris cardiaca is the motherwort that I explore with. And I've actually gained a really, what I would call a really deep plant relationship with motherwort. But I think that there's a huge difference, because a lot of people will talk about these plants, right? A lot of people talk about blue lotus, but like I just had a blue lotus experience today, and with a few friends, me and a few friends drank some lotus. We brewed up some lotus. What's crazy is it made me think people don't know how to have these experiences. Like, people don't know how to get things to work for them because they don't know how to work with the plants. They think we grew up in a society where it's like, my friend bought some blue lotus tea. On the thing, it told him to get some hot water and steep it in the hot water for 10 to 15 minutes. If you want to waste your money and just get the flavor of the lotus, then that's fine. But if you are looking for effects, if you're looking to actually feel the lotus, I mean, it's preferable that you brew it. The way I look at it is, if the shamans steeped ayahuasca for 15, 20 minutes, do you think it would even work? Like, that was my preference on a lot of these things. It's like, one, if it's not safe enough for me to brew it at an extremely high dose and take an extremely high dose and not die and not risk health issues, then it's something I most likely will not take. So, that's why, first thing I do before I use plants is I get educated. And that's what I mean, but I feel like a lot of people don't do research, because I mentioned LD50 to people, and a lot of people scratch their head like, what are you talking about? LD50? LD50 is a lethal dose of 50% of the test subjects that were, in the, mice that were in the test to test how dangerous a substance is, right? So, I just read a lot of research papers. I go through, I type in on Google the plant that I'm trying to do. So in the beginning, before I did this, I made a Blue Lotus documentary. But before I did the Blue Lotus documentary, I typed in on Google Blue Lotus. I researched everything. I went through probably 40 different websites. I went through probably 15 different scientific articles, and I just went through shit, right? And I read and I learned about the molecules, what receptors they attach to. I learned about why the lotus causes this and this, and I learned about what receptors they attach to, and if I didn't know what the fuck they were talking about in the research paper, right? So if they said, hey, it attached to it was a D2 or a dopamine antagonist. Let's say it was just, let's keep it broad. Let's say I was researching Nuciferin, and it said that it was a dopamine antagonist, which means that it's a dopamine blocker. So basically, yeah, it just blocks the dopamine receptors in a certain way. But then part of it also is a dopamine antagonist. And it also made me realize, researching shit like this, that plants can have multiple functions. A plant can be an antagonist at one dose and an agonist at another dose. Plants can have multiple, molecules can have multiple, receptors that they attach to and that they affect. I used to think that if a molecule worked on dopamine, it worked on dopamine, but I found out no, molecules can release dopamine, GABA, and serotonin. Realistically, if that's how it works, it can attach to, multiple receptors. It can work with multiple things, and that's just how substances work. And I feel like this is just common sense to people that dive deep with molecules, or at least it should be. That if you are diving deep with molecules, and I'm not talking about plants, like if you're just someone who's steeping tea for 15 minutes, you're boiling some water in a teapot, you're pouring it in your cup, with your plant in there, and then you're taking the plant out 15 minutes later, and then drink your tea. If you're doing that, then you don't even gotta listen to a word I'm saying. Drink your tea and do what you're doing. But if you're like, because what I did today with the lotus is I brewed it for 5 hours. For 5 hours, I brew it with the top on, so I don't lose too much steam. But like, you're gonna lose steam regardless. But like, so I don't lose too much steam out of the pot, and I just let it brew on low for hours, and that's what I did. I had enough to fill up what the fuck is this? 12-ounce mason jar. I had enough to fill up, but there's a little more after the 12 ounces, so probably like 14 ounces worth of liquid. I split that between 3 people, and we had a moderate, moderate to light, lotus experience, but it was nice though. It was, but it made me realize that if people did that, they'd feel it. They'd feel it. There wouldn't be like this thing where lotus kind of worked, or it kind of just made me feel tired, or people just don't know how to get these things to work. So, and I just think it's from lack of education, and I think it's also from fear, because people are scared they're gonna hurt themselves, and I think this is the issue with drug use. The reason why people hurt themselves with drugs, it is not the drug's fault. It is always your fault. And that's hard to hear if you know someone who's died from opioids, if you know someone who's died from drugs in general. But, yeah, there might be a circumstance where you started using the drug before you got educated and you're addicted and you can't stop and this, that, and the third. But there's always a choice of education. You can always get educated. Start getting educated. Before you do a drug, figure out what receptors they attach to. If you don't know what receptors are, research that. I figured out I think there's 4 types of drug receptors, and 4 different ways drugs can attach to receptors, right? And it's like, I didn't know this. I thought all drugs attach to one receptor one way. These are things that I just recently learned, because I'm constantly learning about these things, because I'm constantly doing molecules. Like, I've done like 3-4 different plants today. And like, I do research on, I know every single molecule in these plants, from the alkaloids to the terpenes to the flavonoids to the oil-soluble molecules to the water-soluble molecules. I know the differences in all these plants from that. Like, when you make extract with just pure alcohol, you'll get a completely different effect than you would if you made extract with just completely pure water. And you get a whole feeling. If you mix them back together, you can get the whole feeling of the whole plant. But you can also isolate certain things. And like, I don't know, this is just what I've been doing, right? And I don't know. I just love this shit. This is my life, right? I love this shit, though. This is what I live for. I live to explore. And I'm exploring these plant molecules. I've been exploring with motherwort, because motherwort has only been used medicinally, when it has so much shamanic potential, has so much potential to help heal and to help, just heal the soul. But yet, it's only used, in history for childbirth and postpartum depression and women things. That's why it was called motherwort. But I think it has so much potential more, but I also am scared to get some of these extracts out, right? Because we live in a world where it's like, and I'm gonna say this, but it's like we live in a world where it's like our government, the DEA, the FDA, they just tried making kratom illegal because we told the internet that it was helping us. And that is the most fucked up thing in this world today, is that if me and you are using a plant that is genuinely helping us for our health conditions, if we want to help others and tell them about this plant so they can help themselves with this plant, right? We risk making that plant illegal. If I sit here and talking about the lotus flower the way I do, I risk that getting on the FDA's radar, the DEA's radar. And it's like, this is bullshit. This is fucking bullshit that, I've been making new extracts and, so it's weird that this is okay. Now this is a white powder, right? Looks like cocaine. Really? It's L-theanine. L-theanine, which is amino acid, the building block to protein. It does work on GABA receptors, but yet it's completely legal. Yet people do not sniff that up their nose. Why? Because it's not as psychoactive. It's not that psychoactive. So because it's not that psychoactive, meaning it doesn't really give you a high, all that really does, even in an extract form, is relax you and maybe make you a little more mentally meditative and a little more mentally clear. But like, there is no quote unquote high from it, or what others would call a high, because that is a high, right? If it makes you a little more mentally clear and meditative and a little more relaxed, it did affect you, so therefore it got you high. It just didn't make you euphoric as fuck, so you don't consider it a high. But that's why people don't sniff that up their nose. But yet, another white powder, if I got another white powder, cocaine, and then put that here, people sniff that up their nose, though, and we consider that a drug. And that's only considered a drug, I feel like, because it causes euphoria. It gets you high, so people like it. But that's the only reason it's illegal, right? These things are not illegal because our government really cares about our health. These things are illegal. Psychedelics are illegal because they don't want us thinking and waking up and realizing the bullshit that they're doing. And cocaine's illegal. Well, a lot of drugs are illegal because they're racist. And people, our government was, racist as fuck. So, I mean, opium became illegal because the Chinese were using it. Cocaine became illegal because they tried saying it made black people rape white women and all this crazy shit. Racist, Cannabis became illegal for the same reasons. Racism. So, what I'm saying here is, it's just bullshit that, I have so many, all these extracts that I've been learning about, okay? I haven't even been able to tell you guys about them because I'm scared to. I'm scared to tell people about the things that I have discovered within these plants that I've been using, and different extracts and different isolates and different things and different that, because they're psychoactive enough to be considered drugs. So because they're psychoactive enough, now I don't agree with this, so I wouldn't recommend anyone doing this, but I've even created different snuffs, and most people don't know what a snuff is, but a snuff is something you sniff. Kind of like cocaine. I mean, cocaine's technically a snuff, but people just consider that sniffing cocaine. But with these different plant extracts, I don't know. There was one that I decided to try, and then I was like, wow, that worked, and I was surprised. I haven't done that with canna yet. With canna, I always smoke my canna, because I have canna extract. And people usually sniff canna extract, but if it became so popular, it would become illegal. But I feel like the only reason why canna is not illegal, and the reason why it's not as popular, and I mean, a lot of people use it, and it's great. I mean, it produces a really beautiful psychoactive effect. And pretty strong, too, if you have the right extract and, You know, some extracts are more energizing of canna, and others extracts are a little more relaxing, but it's pretty strong. But I feel like the only reason why it's not that popular is because if you continuously use it, throughout the night, eventually it'll start giving you a headache. If you continuously use it more, your headache gets worse and worse, and it basically prevents you from getting too fucked up on it. Like, it prevents you from having too much of a repetitive experience with it. Now, at low doses, it is possible to use it every day. I mean, I'm pretty sure they've made it into a legitimate medication called Zembrin, but took the main alkaloids, mesembrin and mesembrinone, and put them in an actual, I think it's an antidepressant. But this is the thing, though. If people started using that all the time and it became popular, it would become illegal. They don't give a fuck about what we don't like. They care about what we do like. And if we start using things, they get scared. Because they don't want us to evolve before they do. They don't want us to know something before they do. So that's why they make these things illegal, learn about it so much, and then either let us use it or restrict it or only have them give it to us, or that's how they do it, so they can make some money off of it. Because if we're getting healed from a plant and they're not making money from it, they're outraged. And shit, I'm fucking outraged. I'm fucking outraged that I can't even talk about, like, I got this beautiful extract right here, right? Fucking beautiful. I'm gonna start selling these shits too, so that's why it's like, fuck you guys. Fuck the government. It's like, I'm gonna start selling these extracts and empowering people with this knowledge, right? Start researching porphyrin alkaloids. Start researching motherwort. Start researching Dagus. Start researching kratom. Start researching all the Mitragyna fucking plants. There's more Mitragyna trees other than kratom. Now, kratom is the most well-rounded one because I've tried other ones, but the lotus flower is interesting, canna's interesting, the daggers are interesting, motherwort's like become an ally of mine. I don't know. These plants have become, and there's only a select few that have really become this interesting to me, because there's only a select few that are psychoactive. Like, I enjoy wild lettuce as well. I enjoy smoking some lactocarium here and there. Not that often, but and let me rephrase this. I haven't done it in a long time, like 8 months. Well, yeah. But when I do it, sometimes I'll get into it and I'll just have like a 2-week binge where I'll just do it every day for 2 weeks and then not use it for like 8 months. But I just know that, I don't know, I see a lot of people using drugs, and I have the knowledge to like have people still get high, but with safety. Because I know a bunch of molecules that would get you high, where someone would say, oh, I'm high as fuck off this shit, or I'm fucked up off this shit, whatever, that it would take you, some of these substances that I'm using, some of these extracts and molecules and isolates that I'm using, they work at such a low dose, so they work at like the 100 milligram, 200 to like 700 milligram range. Some of them work at lower doses than that, but yet won't kill you unless you took a kilo of it. Wouldn't kill you, like, in some of these white powder extracts that I'm going to be exploring with, they're active at like fucking 200 milligrams, 400 milligrams is a really strong dose type shit. But yet, it takes 15 to 30 grams of that extract to kill you. So, that's what I prefer doing, and that's what I prefer using, is molecules that are active, and molecules and substances that are active at a low dose, but kill you at a high, it has to kill you at a high dose. The lower the substance, the lower the psychoactive dose, the better. you know, when it's a plant that the dose can kill you at, you know, like 20 grams of it. You know, it's better to take a substance that, you know, because if it was a substance that, you know, kills you at 20 grams, but it takes 10 grams of it, of the substance for you to feel anything from it, that's a substance you should not be fucking using. And that's why with this whole fentanyl thing, I think humans need to be educated. I think fentanyl is the most retarded drug that has ever been created. Because, you know, it's just active at it's active at a low dose, but it kills you at such a low dose it's retarded. You know, fentanyl can kill you at 3 milligrams. 3 milligrams of pure fentanyl can kill me or you, which is fucking mind-blowing. Why the fuck are humans using that shit? Like, we need to have rules on using drugs. We need to have guidelines and true education. We talk about drug education. You know, there's people on YouTube that talk about they want to educate people. You know, test your substances. Fuck testing your... Of course test your fucking substances. But figure out what the fucking LD50 of the substance you're using is. Figure out, you know, how much of that shit's gonna kill you. Figure out, can it fucking kill you? Because some substances are so psychoactive that in your head you're thinking, oh my god, I'm gonna die. But if you actually knew the LD50, you can get that worry out of your fucking head. And you won't worry. It's just... I recommend knowing the LD50. I recommend knowing how much it takes to kill you. I recommend knowing the side effects. I recommend knowing the receptors it attaches to. I recommend knowing, like, also, if it attaches to the mu opioid receptors in any way whatsoever, I need you to understand that it will cause a physical withdrawal. The opioid receptors have a certain type of withdrawal to them. You know, like a GABA agonist has a certain type of withdrawal to it. No matter what type of GABA agonist it is, you know, if it's a GABA B agonist, it's going to have a GABA B agonist type feeling. If it's a, you know, also, that's when you start getting to know these drugs and substances and molecules. You start to understand that, you know, like, for example, if it's a tryptamine, you know, DMT, psilocybin, they have completely different experiences, but yet so similar. So similar that, you know, you could tell they're tryptamines. So, that's all I'm saying here, is get educated on molecules if you are diving with molecules.